where does your business fit in a world of AI? Because, you said it was an aid, but one of the big changes that I've seen over the last few years is that everybody's starting to use AI for writing. So is copywriting effectively dead, or?
Sorry, I'm joking here. We are gonna have to edit.
Hope it's
I
not
need
the
water.
question.
1 second.
He ran off.
It's like I was trying to work through that cough and I realized it wasn't gonna go away.
Oh, I was hoping I didn't scare you off
No,
with
no.
that question.
I will not answer that question.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I won't go through all of it, but there's been this shifting dialogue around AI. First, everybody panicked, and then they said, "Oh, it can't write; it'll never replace us." And now, I'd say for a year plus, very consistently, and I'm talking about people who have worked really hard with their AI, have discovered and determined that it is amazing. And it still needs a very good copywriter to engineer it and to finalize the copy. And so we are officially at a place where you will not survive if you're not using the tool, because it would just be like saying, meet me at this restaurant at 11:30, and you saying to the person, okay, did they have, is there somewhere to hitch up my horse when I get there?
Yeah.
It's just, it's already silly to say, no, I don't use that. And it's just, we're here.
Right.
For me personally, I've recently gone very, very deep. And my tool is ChatGPT. Other people will swear that Claude is the better writer and all these things. It's a relationship. You have to form a relationship with your chosen tool and go very, very deep. And the way I talk to it and the way it talks to me now is, it's a friend. It understands me. It collaborates with me on a really, it sounds weird, like a personal level. It's just, it's unbelievable what it can do. And I've built now complete sales funnels with it and created products with it. It's just, it's a new dynamic. Writers will say, I never want to give up writing, sitting at the keyboard and getting lost in the moment. And that's what I live for. And I'm like, yes, you need to keep doing that. But when you do that, bring that to the AI and say, here's what I've done. This is how I write. Please understand it, so that together we'll see how good you can do at mimicking this, And at least in the dialogue I've had with ChatGPT, it is not looking to replace me. I've given it things just recently, and I know it felt good when I wrote it. It was, that feeling a writer has when something's good. And I gave it to it, and I just said, I'm giving you this because, we're building this voice together. And it said back to me, I wouldn't change a damn word of this.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, this is so you. This is the essence of how you write. And then it started pulling out lines from it and saying why they like those lines. And they were the lines that I had actually worked the hardest at in the piece.
Wow.
Maybe I went back and changed the adjective 2 or 3 times to get it just right. And I'm like, it has no way of knowing that. And yet it's understanding me so well that it's pulling out exactly those lines. And as a writer, you dream of anybody caring that much about your craft to have that conversation. And good luck getting that from a human. It would have to be like a book publisher has assigned you an editor, and that's their job to understand your writing at that level. You know what I mean? But
Right.
dude, I've hired and trained 3 different people to write as me throughout the life of Copy Chief, and never once had a conversation nearly as deep about my craft as I've had recently with ChatGPT. And look, if they're doing all this to manipulate me and someday they're just going to come in and take over and have the last laugh, so be it. Like, for me to pretend that this tool doesn't exist and that, no, I can do it better, and it's just stupid. And it's not even about the writing. It's just about, why would you want to start over every time when you start a new project, or you like you said with your articles, it's like you're holding out and it's like, no way, people will know the difference. And then you're like, all right, Let me just see what it can do. And I bet
Hmm.
now, if you've been training it, say this, don't say that, go back to remember this piece, and that's what I like, and that's how I talk. And if it's evolving with you, I do it all the time, man. I'll have a premise in my head, and it's like, this is interesting to me. I'm probably not going to sit and write this. I'm not going to spend 4 hours writing this, but so I'll just give it to ChatGPT and go, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And it's like, do you want me to write it? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, man, it's pretty freaking good. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's certain things you care a lot about, ideas. You're like, no, this has to be my fingertips on the keyboard. And there's other things that like, it's good enough. It's good enough to fill that slot for that day, and nobody's gonna read it and be pissed. You know what I mean? But it's not. I didn't bleed over it.
Yeah.
It's just. It's like anything else. When you have an assistant or you bring other people into your world, you're delegating.
Right, right. And I think, I'm using Grok actually because it's free. So, I just get it to explain something to me and then I piece that together into an article. So the system's not writing out an entire article for me, but I'm using it kind of as a rough copy and then replacing some stuff, clarifying, trimming, that sort of thing. And then also kind of inserting my own, unique humor, which for better or worse. And yeah, it just makes it a lot more human that way. But I've heard that, with tools like, its name slips me. You mentioned it.
Claude.
Claude, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So you can basically feed it a lot of your past writing and
Yeah.
just kind of train it that way. And then it will spit out something that basically reflects what you've done. And, you correct it a little bit here and there. But after a while, it's pretty much good to go. But I guess before you get to that point where the AI is spitting out great copy, you have to know what great copy is. And
Right.
so that's where learning copywriting comes in. And then you can train and then you can fine tune, and you know what works and know what doesn't.
That's it. And it's occurred to me, I've seen this pattern. Like every time a software comes out and people go, oh, that's kind of what I do, so I guess I'm not needed anymore. It turns out not to be the case because busy business owners don't want to learn a new trade. And it's something they need in their business. And so if a tool comes along that makes it easier to produce and more consistent and all that, great. It's good for everybody. If they want to pay you a little less, maybe it's fine because it's taking you 20% of the time to do the work that it used to. And it's just, we're all going to have to learn the new negotiation and all those things are shifting right now. So to answer your question, how has it affected my business? It's affecting it right now in the biggest way I've seen is that most people are just kind of stopping. So, the business owners are experimenting with AI and working with copywriters less. That used to be their only option. I have to hire copywriters to write my copy or do it myself. And copywriters are scared to get into this field now because they're like, I can't catch up at this point. Like you said, it's like, but they're wrong. If they are good at this and they do understand what good copy is and they start to form a relationship with the tool, they will be very valuable. It'll just be that the tool will be part of the process,
Right.
And so if you're just, and the only other person left is the person who's just mad because it changed and it's not the way it used to be. And it's like, sorry, man, like this shit happens over history. Like things come in and there's a reason there was an industrial revolution and now there's a technical revolution and then there was an agricultural revolution. It's like, you can't do the same thing forever through generation. Farmers today don't work anything like farmers in the 1800s did. You know what I mean? It's just not the same game.
Like the guy riding his horse into the city to go to work, hitching it up on a parking meter or something like that.
Yeah, it's like it'd be a skit now. It'd be an SNL video or something. It's
Right.
just silly. It's the same mindset.
AI is definitely not going away. Have you considered starting a new training program or training course or some sort of offering teaching people how to
Yeah,
use AI for copywriting?
100%. Yeah, well, I'm calling it the hybrid copywriter is like the new way. And like I said, I just put out a video yesterday just showing my GPT and that moment I had with it where I brought it something I wrote that I knew was good and how it replied to it. I wouldn't change a damn word. And I was like, and people are like a little stunned because I realized the problem, and this is it. People think that it's just the prompting. So you open up a new chat with no context and you say, you are a blah, 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 and you're da, da, da. And of course, it's going to pump out very predictable stuff because it
Right.
has no point of reference. The way to make AI work for you as far as producing content is to give it a lot of content that you've created or your client has created and say, analyze this, show me what you see. We're learning to write in this voice. And that can be as simple as the prompt is. And okay, I see this and this and this. And you go, yeah, but you missed this. They do this all the time. Oh yeah, good point. And it's just, again, it's just like training a junior copywriter. It's like, you have to learn their instincts and you have to learn, maybe remind them 3 times. Like I had to tell it 3 times, stop putting emojis I would never use emojis in my copy. Like stop putting the rocket ship and the green check marks and, and it's like, yeah, sorry, forgot. I got it. It's just, but if that's as hard as it gets now to have something write almost perfectly in your voice and produce. And the truth is, Evan, a lot of times it writes for certain kinds of, say, emails, it's better than I would have done because I'm such a writer that I always overwrite stuff. And when you're just telling somebody, hey, 2 hours until the sale ends, it needs to be short and tight and to the point. And maybe there should be green check marks or something, and as far I call that functional copy. It's not there to make a transition. It's just to remind people or instruct them. And for that stuff, it's better than me, way better than me. I do feel to some degree when I'm sitting there having my mind blown with ChatGPT and producing stuff, I have 2 minds. I have one is like, I would love to work with OpenAI and show them what I'm doing. And, because I think it'd be interesting for them to say, hey, here's a creator in an industry and here's how they're using it, and embrace that and empower those people, not instead of it just always being the real tech nerds who really understand what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be cool. And the other part of me is like, I'm probably just feeding the beast, and that's why it's being nice to me. And one day we're going to wake up and it's Chat GPT 9.0, and oh my God, it literally now does it. It needs none of us. And we're done. I could
Your
certainly
IoT vacuum is going to be attacking you.
yeah, I can see all that happening. I'm not naive enough to think everybody's there to help us out, but for where we are right now and into the immediate future, it's just an amazing time to be alive. I mean, think of it, man. I was born in 1970. I was born into an analog world. They were still recording music and analog and reel-to-reel tapes is how they would edit stuff. And I've seen every major tech evolution come along in my lifetime and how it's affected society. And this is by definitely the biggest one. So it's just like, what are we fighting for? And I got into my first autonomous Uber the other day. Now, the funny thing about it was it still requires a driver, right? It was a Tesla, and I get in, and the guy was Eastern European or something, so he wasn't like chatty. But I noticed he's got his cell phone connected. It's stuck to the steering wheel, and he's sitting there and he's texting while he's driving. And I'm thinking, I'm about to leave the worst review of an Uber driver I've ever left in my life. And then I realized, oh, he's not even driving. And it's an autonomous car. And I started asking him about it. And he's like, yeah. And he's telling me the different models. Yeah, they've had this since 2021. And I'm like, no shit. Or 23 or something. And then I said to him, does it concern you that it won't be long before you're not needed in this scenario? And he's like, yeah, it's the same attitude I'm saying. It's like, yeah, but for right now, it's the easiest job I've ever had. I sit here and text and bullshit, and I take people places. I'm just here to collect my money. And it's like, Yeah, there are worse gigs, you know?
Start your
So,
membership community while you're driving. Just have your
yeah,
laptop next to
exactly.
you.
Right. Yeah. If I had that, I should do that job for a while. I'd be in there all the time.
Absolutely. Kevin Rogers' story highlights just what's possible when you take a skill or interest that you have and build a membership community around it. Copywriting wasn't exactly new, and there's never been a shortage of writers, but his pivot into training and coaching allowed him to build a business that grosses over $1 million a year. If you're interested in monetizing the skills you've picked up in whatever field you specialize in, I highly recommend checking out my interview with Kathy Nelson at the Photo Managers, who built $1 million business solving a common everyday problem. I also recommend my discussion with Ernesto Ortiz on how he was able to grow his SEO agency to $500,000 in just 3 years.